This is Global Intel Hub coming at you with an analysis of an article from nature.com, and it's about SpaceX. So this looks like a really legitimate site, nature.com. It looks like kind of the mainstream scientific community. And what do we have here? We have a picture that looks like a rocket is taking up and crashing, and the word SpaceX is here. This definitely doesn't look like a company I would want to invest in, the way that it's portrayed in this article. So let's take a look at what this article is saying and what it means and who the author is and all of that. So this is from nature.com, and so they just have this is kind of like a synopsis. The current baseline scenario for a Mars mission using SpaceX Starship. 1. Starship launches from Earth. 2. It reaches LEO, waiting for refueling. 3. Main stage returns to Earth to be equipped with cargo version of Starship, and so on and so forth. So now when we actually click here and look at the article on Scientific Reports, the paper that was published. So here we have the abstract, and the first thing that jumps out that's a little strange, I don't want to just read the whole thing, but let's just read the first couple sentences. After decades where human spaceflight missions have been reserved to low Earth orbit, recent years have seen mission proposals and even implemented plans, e.g. with the mission Artemis 1 for returning to the lunar surface. SpaceX has published over various media, e.g. its official website, conference presentations, user manual, conceptual information for its reusable Starship to enable human exploration missions to the Martian surface by the end of the decade. Here's the scary part. The plans contained little details, however, and have not yet been reviewed concerning their feasibility. So, okay, so the plans contain little details. So if there's little details, then how can we confirm or deny if those details are viable, right? If we don't have the data, we can't make analysis of anything. In this paper, we show significant technological gaps in these plans. So what this guy is saying is he sees gaps in the plans, but those plans are actually not plans. It's just limited information that's been released. So the plans haven't actually been released. Now, look what he says next. Based on estimates and extrapolated data, a mass model as needed to fulfill SpaceX's plans could not be reproduced, and the subsequent trajectory optimization showed that the current plans do not yield a return flight opportunity due to a too large system mass. Significant gaps exist in relevant technologies, e.g. power supply for the Martian surface. It's unlikely these gaps can be closed until the end of the decade. Says who? So SpaceX has not disclosed their plans, but this guy is saying it's unlikely that the gaps can be closed. But what gaps? How does he conclude that there are gaps when they haven't released the information? Now, here they say it again. With the limited information published by SpaceX and extrapolation from us to fill the information gaps, we were not able to find a feasible Mars mission scenario using Starship. So they're working on their assumptions and extrapolations and then making a conclusion based on their assumptions and extrapolations. So it's important to understand the logical process that's being used here in this paper, the methodology, because the conclusions are conclusions from their own assumptions, not from SpaceX data. SpaceX did not release any data. They say here, with limited information. So here they say, we recommend several remedies, e.g. stronger international participation to distribute technology development and thus prove feasibility. So what they're saying is they want German participation and more international participation. Okay, fair enough, but this is a very slippery slope. When you're presenting an article like this to a scientist, it's very clear what's going on, but to a layman or to the common person, they just look at this and they see this image and they think, oh, another rocket's going to blow up. This nature.com is pretty controversial. Isn't this the one that started publishing about the COVID conspiracies? Nature.com. It's the like the Atlantic. Anyway, let's get back to this article. There's a couple other interesting things in here. Let's just search for data, because all of this analysis in the article is looking at data that is not provided by SpaceX. So that means they're just guessing. And then they're making conclusions about their guesses. And then they're transposing that to SpaceX. And that's very unfair because SpaceX has not released its data. This requires a compilation of statements and data about the scenario and careful analysis, where necessary, with extrapolation. Extrapolation is where you take a line and you draw it. It's basically guessing. Let's translate. Extrapolation is guessing. Intelligent guessing, but it's like saying how much revenue is going to be next quarter or next year. You don't know. Even if the company is doing well, you may think you're going to do $1 million and you do 2 million, or you do $500,000. You just don't know. So extrapolation is a tool. Not saying that it's useless, but to base a conclusion based on extrapolation, how do you know that SpaceX doesn't have alternative energy source? Or how do you even know that they're going to use Starship to go to Mars? Maybe they already have a system or technology that they're not sharing. Because SpaceX has publicly said they don't use patents. They don't share information because people steal it. Let me find that really quick. Okay, here it is. I just Googled it and found it. In 2017, in an interview, Musk said, "We essentially have no patents in SpaceX." He again reiterated this claim in 2022, saying, "We don't patent. Our primary long-term competition is China. If we published patents, it would be farcical because the Chinese would just use it as a recipe book." And there's your answer. SpaceX does not share private data. They have a huge black business with the various NSA contracts that they have. $1.8 billion contract. We know that it's a $1.8 billion contract, but we don't know exactly what's going on because it's classified. So SpaceX works on classified products and projects. So it's within their business model or their mandate. They have, in fact, SpaceX has a fiduciary duty to their customers to not disclose their secret sauce because, like Musk said, the Chinese would steal it, or Boeing would steal it, or whatever. That's really what they have. They have technology, aerospace technology, and other technology, rocket propulsion technology, communication technology. One last thing. Now he says not only do they extrapolate the data, they make assumptions are used to fill in the gaps. So basically this guy goes on to write a long article, but it's all based on assumptions and extrapolations. So how can you make a conclusion when your core axioms, the axioms are your kind of known truths, are your own assumptions and extrapolations? It's what we call in logic a circular reference. A circular reference is you can't pull yourself out of quicksand. Circular reference is a series of references that create a closed loop. So it's like asking someone, what's the definition of a circle? And you say, it's a circle. That's not the definition. You have to use something else to define it. And that's what this article has, is a circular reference. So I don't know what the point of it is, but if you look at this company, it's maybe a competitor, maybe, I don't know. But let's look at who the author is. Volker Maywald. German Aerospace Center, DLR. There he is. Aerospace engineer. So let's see his background. So it looks like he's published 2 blog posts. One we're looking at and one 5 months ago. Or he reposted something. He's written 1 paper. He's a researcher, so he is paid to write research papers. And he was a university lecturer at the University of Bremen. And he has a degree as a scientific assistant. He studied as a scientific assistant undergraduate here, minor thesis. So this guy is a professional researcher, and he does great research. There's no question about that. But it's kind of difficult to have a conclusion that's based on your own assumptions and extrapolations. I think we can all agree on that. So we just wanted to pick this apart. It's nothing against this guy. It's a well-written piece. I wish that more people would write like this, who are not researchers, just common people. It has formulas. It has charts. It's a very well authored piece. Congratulations to him for doing it. I just think that it's unfair to write something like this with no data from SpaceX and then making a conclusion about SpaceX when they haven't even provided the data. So that's kind of unfair. That's like it's kind of like this conspiracy theory community where you create this this narrative, whatever it is. I don't want to use a couple popular narratives. I can't really think of a good example that's neutral, but he's creating a narrative that there's no basis of creating that narrative. It's just his. It's like construing and constructing. You have a baseline of X, and you add Y and Z and A and B. That's your assumptions and your extrapolations, and then you conclude that A, B, C, and X, Y, Z are not going to work, and SpaceX can't go to Mars, and therefore the whole SpaceX business is total BS. But how can you conclude that when you're basing your conclusion off your own assumptions? It's a circular reference. So that's a long-winded way of just saying that this is there's a better approach to going about this. Like, one would be asking the company for data, and if SpaceX will not provide data on the science that they're using to go to Mars, then study something else, or maybe ask NASA. Maybe NASA would provide it. You know, a lot of companies are using SpaceX hardware. Maybe they have access to that data, even though SpaceX won't provide it. Maybe NASA would, or some of these other companies, because obviously SpaceX is doing something that works, because they're now like 95% of all rocket launches in the planet outside of China and Russia are SpaceX rockets. So obviously they understand rocket launching. So that's it. That's the conclusion. That's how to look at something like this analytically, scientifically. And we hope to see you in other videos. Have a great day.